You know something? I was thinking, having thoughts, as many do. And it occurred to me that it's been a long time since I've given, like, a video game review. I'm still reviewing movies out the wazoo. I'm seeing trash that I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy, like The Strangers Chapter 3. But when it comes to new video game reviews, I've abandoned it. It's like I went to the store to get cigarettes and never came home. And that's mainly because with the gaming channel now, my thoughts on games kind of live there, but I haven't done like a full review on a game in a while. And I wanted to change that. A new game just came out and I recently finished it after about 28 hours. And that is 28 hours well spent. That is like 28 hours of euphoria right there. I'm talking 28 hours of soft, warm ball fondling is how this game made me feel. Nioh 3. Now, I'm a huge fan of the Nioh franchise. I've sung its praises for years. I have always glazed it, and even recently on the gaming channel, I uploaded a full Nioh 1 and 2 playthrough, a cumulative 30 hours worth of content I dropped, played all off stream, just to get excited again and get ready for Nioh 3. And I am happy to say Nioh 3 did not disappoint. I also just uploaded a 24-hour-long video for my Nioh 3 playthrough. And I plan on doing more playthroughs because the game is just that good. Now, first things first, Nioh 3 is a Souls-like, and I know for a lot of people that's starting to carry a negative connotation now due to saturation. We're seeing tons of low-effort Souls-likes getting farted out every single day on Steam. Just throwaway asset-flipped garbage like my substitute English professor found a Shingon Wu and killed the Demon Lord. And like, everything is integrating Souls-like elements into games now, so a lot of people are getting a bit tired of it. Myself included. There are a lot of lazy Souls-likes that I've played over the last year or so, but Nioh 3 is not. This is one of the best Souls-like games you can find. This franchise is among the best the genre has to offer. And Nioh 3, I think, is probably the most mechanically deep of the franchise so far. It has so many systems. And for some people, maybe that's a bit overwhelming. But I think it's just glorious. Playing Nioh into Nioh 2 and then immediately into Nioh 3, I'm loving the direction they took it. I think it was a great evolution. Of course, it's not without some problems, most notably performance. I think that is by far the biggest blemish Nioh 3 has at the moment. Throughout my 28 hours, I did have some stuttering, some popping in, and just some general performance issues and some bugs throughout the playthrough, but nothing that I thought was like, game ruining or anything. On console, I've heard it's a bit worse, but I played on PC, and I did still have performance issues, so that is definitely an issue. But for me, it didn't ruin the game. And there are a couple of other things that I think were a bit weaker than previous Nioh entries, but I'll get to them in a moment. I want to talk about some of the big changes. The biggest change, obviously, being the open world, or more accurate to say, pseudo-open world. You explore regions through eras. And traveling through eras, you get an open world experience where you can freely travel around, fight some formidable foes out there in the world, bosses, or do side quests, get more lore, collect kodamas, which give you blessings, which can increase your stats or increase the efficacy of the elixirs. You can find other certain things like skills out in the world, which is a really cool idea where basically through exploration, you get stat bonuses, you find things that'll help make you stronger, or you find things that'll help with your drop rates. You fight bosses that'll sometimes drop some really interesting gear. There's Jijiko out there that you can snipe, and if you do, you pet a little animal and he'll give you another unique skill. There is just so much in the pseudo-open world. It feels very alive. Like, it doesn't feel like a chore to explore it, and it's not so big that you're just going through like fucking 10 minutes of just idly running, doing nothing. There is always enemies to fight, things to find. So it was never boring traversing the pseudo-open world. And notably, I am someone that has often said that this insistence for every game to have an open world is just an excuse to like pad out game time and just kind of lazily have players just traveling around doing chores. In like, the classic Ubisoft open world formula, that kind of eye-rolling garbage. Nioh 3, I never got that feeling. Even though there is like enemy base capture that you can do, it's not like the bulk of the open world experience. There's like a few bases you can capture if you want to, and you get like good loot for it, of course. But there's just so much to do in the open world, and so much to find, and so many ways of using the open world to cater to your build. And there are endless builds that are viable and fun. I'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, the biggest change probably to the Nioh formula is this open world approach now, and I think they did a good job with it. Previously in Nioh 1 and 2 it was mission based, so this is a big deal. They do still have missions here. You can do them through battle scrolls, so you can do like specific missions, so it's not like completely done away with, but the bulk of it's going to be through these open world experiences through the eras. And for me, I thought it was good. Now, I briefly touched on builds. Let's talk about that, because I think that's where most players are going to be very, very, very pleased. If you've never played a Nioh game and you're thinking about giving Nioh 3 a shot, I think you're really in for a fucking treat if you're someone that enjoys min-maxing and getting like extremely wacky and silly with build ideas, because this game has so much depth. I could gush and grannies for hours about how much you can do here to cater a playstyle to whatever you think is fun. So like for me, I changed it a few times. What I ended up on, my final build, was mainly through Tonfas, mainly on Ninja stance. So another big change here is there's two stances. You have Samurai and Ninja, and they play very differently. Samurai is the traditional Nioh gameplay where you have low, medium, high stance, and you now have like some deflect options, and you have like martial arts that you can use, and you can make a build around martial arts. Like for me, for a while I was using an Odachi and mainly doing ground sweeper, and I built around beefing up my martial arts, and I used set bonuses from the Crimson General set. Like, there are just, the point I'm making, I'm getting immediately into the nitty gritty here. You can do so much with your builds in this game, because you have two stances to play around with, and you seamlessly transition between them. Mid-combo, you can go from Samurai to Ninja, mid-combo, and just start schmooving and slapping around on the bad guys. It's fucking amazing. And on Ninja stance, it plays completely different from Samurai. So you're attacking faster, you're using less ki, and now instead of like deflecting, you're mainly looking to be dodging, using Mist. So they introduced something called Mist, where in the middle of a combo or at the end of a combo, you will mist, which will then make a little decoy as you dodge away from the enemy, and then you can continue your combo. And on Ninja stance, there's a lot of weapons and a lot of builds that revolve around aerial combat, like getting enemies in the air or attacking from the air. It's so fucking good. Like, there are so many things you can do for builds in this game, and of course, just like in Nioh 1 and 2, the enemies are squirting loot. This game pisses out loot. And even the loot that isn't catered to your build, you go, you dismantle it, you soul extract it, you get materials for it, so then you can craft gear. You can fine-tune gear that you craft to fit your build, giving you the bonuses you're looking for, or whatever element you're looking for on it. There's just so much depth. I could go on and on for so long about how deep these mechanics and systems are, so I was very pleased with just how much meat there is on the bones here. But there is one area, one very notable area here that they definitely fumbled on, just full stop, no way of sugarcoating, fumbled on: soul cores. Soul cores were introduced in Nioh 2, and they were hype as fuck in Nioh 2. Soul cores are dropped by enemies, and you put them into your character, and in Nioh 2 they function where when you do the command to use the soul core, you become that defeated enemy, and they do an attack. So they're used to help you in a fight, and they'll help like break an enemy or whatever you're using for utility or damage, whatever, depending on the soul core, of course. In Nioh 3, the soul cores don't function that way at all. It's completely different. They did an overhaul, and boy howdy did they fucking fall flat on their face. I think this was a full-blown miss. So now when you use a soul core in Nioh 3, you don't turn into that enemy or anything. Now your soul cores have slots where it's a yin and the yang position. And if you put a soul core in the first position, it gives you some bonuses. So you can, of course, cater it to your build. Depending on what you want, you'll put a soul core that has corresponding bonuses. And when it's in that position, you can summon that enemy. So what you do is you fucking hold out your hand and, I summon this yokai. And then he goes out there and he does his move. And it's underwhelming. Like, I don't love that. liked when you turned into it and unleashed the move yourself. It was pretty cool, and you could use it mid-combo, whereas here, you have to stop everything, halt what you're doing in order to say, Pikachu, I choose you, and get him out of your Pokeball. And if you put a Soul Core in the other position, you then get, like a talisman. This is where you get your classic Nioh talismans like Carnage, Sloth, Weakness, that kind of thing, as well as, of course, a bunch of new things like Water Familiar, Talisman, stuff like that. It comes from these Soul Cores. They give you those when you put them in the other position. And I just find this to be a huge downgrade. I thought the way Soul Cores functioned in Nioh 2 was fantastic. And I would have liked to see them flesh out that idea more, of integrating them into the fight itself, as opposed to then just kind of sidelining it to be like, here's a summon that you can use if you're doing nothing else. And also, this is where you're going to get like your talismans from. Like, I can kind of see what the goal was, like the idea. I just don't think it's as good as it was in Nioh 2. Like, I don't think it needed that kind of change. Like, I just don't think they nailed it when it came to Soul Cores. But most other things I do think are extraordinary. Like, I really do think they've done a great job on the whole. There's just a few hiccups like that. It is so fucking addicting to just be tinkering around with build ideas, noodling on certain things, and just trying to come up and cook up the optimal build for your playstyle. And what's extremely nice, a big quality of life change here, respecking is free. At any time, you can change your stat distribution, you can change your skills where you put those, and just redo it. So if you commit to a build and you're not really loving it, just fucking respec. It's free, it's instant, it's not a headache or anything, so you can constantly be experimenting. It seemed like the focus on Nioh 3 was go wild, create crazy builds, fucking break the game, just have a hoot and a holler, and I really appreciate that. But a consequence of that, a consequence is a word I'm using very loosey-goosey, is the game is easier. So Nioh 1 and 2 built up a reputation of being punishing, brutal, like a cheek-clapping experience that a lot of people maybe just set the controller down and never revisited. Nioh 1 and 2 for a lot of players was extremely challenging to the point of being unfun. Nioh 3 is definitely easier, which I'm not the biggest fan of because I always enjoy the challenge of Souls-like games. But I wouldn't say Nioh 3 is like, a fucking cakewalk. I didn't steamroll through everything. In fact, there was a boss that took me like 20-something tries to beat. So like there are tough fights in here, but compared to Nioh 1 and 2, it is easier, and that's something hardcore Nioh fans have been very vocal about, being disappointed that it seems to be more catered towards casuals in regards to its difficulty. But I would argue that it's not to the detriment of the game. I feel like the reason why Nioh 3 is easier than Nioh 1 and 2 is because you get stronger earlier. In Nioh 1 and 2, you start fucking pitiful. You start coughing baby. Whereas in Nioh 3, you start hydrogen bomb. Like, you are already strong from the jump. Which I think is fun. I think that's exciting. It doesn't bother me that much. And I also think because there is so much versatility to these builds and so many ways of weaving these stances together with combos and martial arts, you just have so many more tools to be strong that you can just break enemies. You can just fucking slap enemies around. So I don't think it being easier is like the worst thing in the world, but it is something that I wanted to mention for sure. And also, a criticism that's existed of Nioh since the first game is enemy variety. That doesn't change in Nioh 3. The enemy variety's lackluster. You're going to be seeing the same enemies over and over and over and over again. Like, you're going to get more familiar with the enemies in this game than you are your own fucking parents. You see them all the time, and there's not a huge cast of them. So, enemy variety, definitely lacking. Do I think it's the biggest deal in the world? No, but I mean, come on. For 2 games, people have been talking about enemy variety, and now you have, a pseudo-open world. This would be a great opportunity to, silence that criticism by just introducing more enemies, which obviously easier said than done, but it is, once again, something that is lacking here. But anyway, I think the game is a must-play for anyone who likes action games. Just in general, action games. I said the same thing for Nioh 1 and 2, and I'm saying it again for Nioh 3. I think this is truly a must-play action game. I don't have a whole lot to say about the story. I'm not going to dive deep into the story because it's not the best story, but it's a fun story. Like, it's a story where you're going through the ages here, beating yokai to death, and you're getting like bits and pieces of actual history mixed with myth. It's enjoyable, albeit at times completely nonsensical. So what? I don't think that's a big deal. It's fun, and it's always compelling, and the boss fights, very fun. I think there was a couple weak bosses that, weren't the most fun to fight, like they were kind of boring. But on the whole, I think they fucking crushed it on most bosses. And you get to see some familiar faces come back from bosses if you're doing some of the side quests, which was nice. That was cool to see them make a return. I think the bosses are going to shine. I think people are going to really enjoy most of the boss fights. And I just think most people will really like this game. I think Nioh 3 is fantastic. I've absolutely loved my time with it. 28 hours well spent, and I'm excited to do more playthroughs. So anyway, that's really about it. See ya.